Welcome. I'm your host, Julie Poole, a Law of Attraction coach, hypnotherapist, and spiritual teacher. This show is for anyone interested in living their best life on all levels, mind, body, and soul. My aim is to uplift, inform, and inspire you. So let's chat and move you from hoping to having. Hello, beautiful people. In today's episode for our little podcast, I want to talk to you about letting go. So we are talking about being able to allow and accept change, because we're not very good generally with change. So I want to talk to you about how we can more easily let go of a situation that either doesn't serve us, like an addiction, a behavior, a pattern, or letting go of a relationship, whether it be romantic or a friendship or a business relationship, whether it be a job that you want to go but just can't seem to find that release button to let yourself apply for other jobs, or whether it is that a job or a relationship has ended and you didn't want it to end. You lose your job, the company closes down, your partner says, I'm leaving, it's over, and you just can't let go. Now, I will be bringing in my spiritual team to have their say on this as well, and we'll see what messages come through from channeling directly with you. But first of all, let's just talk about why we find it so difficult to let go. Let's take the example of a job ending or a relationship ending that we didn't want it to end. Perhaps we were dismissed unfairly. We feel it wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and we don't get the chance to have our say. Our partner walks out and we don't have a chance to even ask why. Why is it over? And we feel it's unresolved and unfinished. And because of that feeling, we are extremely unhappy, because we're holding on energetically, vibrationally to that which was. And because we're holding on to what was, we are unwilling to reach out to grasp onto something new. Now, let's talk about a relationship for a moment that ends that you didn't want to end. I have so many of my clients saying, I can't get past the breakdown of my marriage. I can't get over my ex, even though we've been apart for 5 years. I can't move on. I still love them. I still want them back. What it means is that you haven't accepted the reality of what is. You want what you used to have. You want to turn the clock back. You want the past back. And this is where trusting that everything happens for a reason is so very important. You may not see the reason yet, but if you can trust there is a reason, this is in my highest good, this is in my best interest, then we can begin to untangle our emotional attachment to that which was. Now, untangling. How do we untangle? Well, first of all, we need to make a decision. I am ready to untangle. I am ready to let this go. And it can be a long process from railing against it to accepting what is and being prepared to make that decision to let it go. Once you've made that decision, and absolutely made it. Now, I think, I'm wishing I could, I'd like to, I'll think about it. Those are not decisions. They are the process towards the decision. But the decision in the end, the final decision, comes down to only one choice. This is what I've got to do. Just one choice. As long as there's 5, 6, 7, or even 2 or 3 choices, we can just stay stuck in I can't make my mind up. So something like a job ending and you didn't want it to end. Perhaps you were dismissed, and you may, and many people do, think, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to put in an appeal. I'm going to get a lawyer. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to fight. Now, in no way are you ready at this point to accept what you would see as defeat and walk away. But is it defeat? Is it defeat? Or are you the one that's winning by accepting this is done? Because I would suggest that you are accepting, and in that you're winning. You're the winner. Because if a partner or a job doesn't want you anymore, why would you want to fight to be in a place where you're not wanted, to keep something that doesn't want to keep you? Are you not worth more than that? Is it because you think they're wrong and you're right, and you have to prove to them that you're right and get them to admit that they're wrong and back down? And then you feel better because you were right all along, and now it's been proven that you were right all along. But you see, this comes down to this right and wrong, and who's to blame. Is it the company's fault for going bust and having to close down the business? Is it the boss's fault for seeing something in you that they didn't like and just managing you out the door? Is it your colleague's fault because they don't want to work with you? Is it your fault? See, this word fault, it implies an incredible amount of blame and shame and embarrassment. So how about if we said instead, these things happen. They just happen. It's no one's fault and no one's to blame. And so it is what it is, and I'm letting go and moving on. Now, when you're in the battle mode, that's extremely difficult to say it's no one's fault, because battle means I am fighting here for my rights, for my reputation, for my right to stay, for my right to remain. I am fighting for a contract that we signed and agreed to, like a marriage contract, and you've gone and broken the contract by leaving. You can't do that. We signed for life. How dare you leave? It is this demanding, expecting that what was will always be. But you promised is what we hear people rail when their relationship breaks down. You promised to love me forever. You promised to never leave me. And now you're saying you don't love me and you're leaving. You broke your promise. And we find it very difficult to accept a broken promise. And we need someone to blame. And we get stuck there. And we can get stuck there for a long time. And while we're blaming, we're hating, we're railing against, we're resisting, and we're punishing ourselves dreadfully. Let's say that this can't let go is of a behaviour or pattern or habit that really is damaging you, your life, your finances, or your health, like smoking, drinking too much, spending too much, whatever it is. When you can see the damage that it's doing to your finances, to your health, to your respect, to your well-being, and you still can't let go, then you will simply admit defeat. I can't stop smoking. I can't stop drinking. I'm addicted to spending. I'm addicted to And there are many things you can be addicted to. I can't stop. So we get stuck in this space, which has its basis in powerlessness. I am powerless against this situation, and I don't like being powerless. I don't like it at all. So I want to get my power back. And if I've lost my power because my partner's gone or my job's gone, I've got to get them back so that I can get my power back. Now that's a thought, a belief that holds you stuck. Instead, you could flip that and say, by accepting the situation, I regain my power, my respect, my voice, my self. Because we can lose ourself in this not accepting. So let us look at what we can do to unravel this blame game, this I can't let go. What can we do to unravel it? Well, you can use various forms of therapy and healing and hypnotherapy and energy healing. There are so many modalities that you would resonate with. Each person will resonate with a different thing. When I'm doing a healing session, I use a combination of energy work, of Reiki, of hypnotherapy, of intuition and clairvoyance. I use a whole combination of stuff, and it's very effective, but only if the person is ready. And this is the bit that I'm talking about, getting to that decision where you say, I have to let this go. Maybe I don't know how to, but I have to. I'll find the way forward. And you have made the decision, I am letting go. So let's just practice that for a moment. All right, I want you to think about a situation in your own life right now that you may be struggling with to let go, or perhaps a situation in the past, and think about it for a moment. Just activate your memory. Think about a situation where you really struggled to let go. And it usually comes down to it's not right, it's not fair, which has our own judgments based on our own standards of right and wrong. So that we may say, well, I would never treat somebody like that, and it's wrong they treated me like that. But that's based on my standards, and everybody's got their own standards. I talk about this a lot in my book, From Hoping to Having, to help you accept and let go and give you all the tools to do that. That's on my website. It's on Amazon. You'll also find on my website on the downloads page, which is like my version of a shop because they're all digital downloads. There's hypnosis for stopping smoking, losing weight. There is unlock your block to quitting this, that or the other, including unlock your block to a great job or a great love. There are tools free available to you on YouTube, including quite a few on my own channel and many on others like Jason Stevenson's. Very good. There's lots of them. But before we can start looking at how I'm going to let this go, we have to decide that we want to. So thinking about that situation I asked you to think about, I want you to really be honest with yourselves now and ask yourself, how much harm or good did it do you hanging on when something wanted to be done? How much good or harm did it do you fighting it? I will often get clients for readings asking me, will I win this court case? I'm suing my employers because they sacked me unfairly. And that court case drags on. Another client who was waiting for a settlement from a car accident 4 years after the event. She was still holding trauma from the car accident and couldn't understand why it was still there 4 years later. And I asked a few questions and established that she was still in a court battle to get a financial settlement. And I said to her, as long as you are in the court case, the car accident or the job dismissal is still active. You're talking about it all the time. You're speaking with lawyers. You're going to court. It's like it was yesterday. It can't heal. We can't let it go. The same as when a marriage breaks down and we have to go through the court process of getting a divorce and a financial settlement, breaking the bonds that tied us, the financial bonds from mortgages and child support, the emotional, psychological and energetic bonds from the marriage contract itself. And marriage is a contract. We sign a piece of paper till death us do part. So what happens when we grow apart and fall out of love with each other anymore and just don't like each other anymore? Because your partner should be your best friend. And if you're not even friends at all, never mind best friends, then everything has fallen down. And is it fair on either of you to keep hanging on and fighting? Is it fair for the children? Is it fair for your energy and your health and your well-being? Eventually, one of you, sometimes both of you, but it only takes one to break a marriage, will say, I'm done. And then you have to go through the court process, and it can sometimes drag on for years. The longer it drags on, the longer the active energy is alive and well and kicking. But once it is done and dusted and you've moved into acceptance, the other side of the divorce, the other side of the court settlement, the other side of the ending of a job, then it is dormant, it's finished. Then you can begin to heal. So we find it very difficult to heal while we're in the active stage of resistance. It's painful. We're angry. We're full of hostility and resentment. We are jealous. We are envious. We are holding so many negative emotions. It's not fair. It's not right. We are in this disallowing energy, and it's so harmful. It's so draining. It's so exhausting. So when is enough enough? When is enough pain and suffering from railing against what is enough? When is the point where you stand up for yourself, not against what's right and wrong, but what it is? It simply is. Whether it's right or wrong becomes irrelevant. Very hard, I know. Very hard. Irrelevant. It's irrelevant who's right or wrong. The fact is, the job is over. The marriage is over. The fact is, this accident happened and I'm moving on. You come to that decision, I am moving on. Then you move into acceptance. And then you move into healing. Then you begin to rebuild a new job, a new love, a new whatever the new is. If this thing that you can't let go of is a habit, and you make a decision, I can do this, I can break this habit, I am breaking this habit and I'm doing it right now. And then you move into the how. But you've made the decision, this habit is done, it's finished, we're parting ways. Whether it's smoking, drinking, internet, shopping, whatever it is, you make the decision, I am done. Then you move into the how. So you may make the decision, I am ready to stop smoking and I'm going to go and see a hypnotherapist, or I'm going to read Alan Carr's book on stopping smoking, or I am going to stop overspending, I'm cutting up my credit cards, I'm contacting the companies and I'm going to make a financial settlement, a financial agreement with them. I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to have a legal document drawn up for my debts. Whatever the action is of the how am I going to fix this? You will only get to the how once you get to the acceptance. The acceptance of the habit. It's out of control, it's harming me, I have to stop, it has to go. The acceptance that the marriage is over and stop fighting to get back What is done, you're flogging a dead horse. Let go. Let it be buried. Take it off life support. Bury it. Let it go. Move on into something new. Something new. I'm mindful of an example here. I remember going for a job when I was in my late 20s that I was very qualified for and very experienced for. It was more money, it was better job, I was excited, I believed I deserved it, I worked on manifesting it, I had the interview, I smashed the interview out of the park, I absolutely expected to get the job, and they rang me and said I'd come a very close second. I was absolutely devastated. And I was even more devastated to find out that the person they'd hired instead of me was less qualified, less experienced, but was known to one of the senior managers. Nepotism, favoritism, unfair. I was furious. I was disgusted. I was angry. I railed. I cried. I tantrumed. I sulked. I stropped. I lashed out for several days. After a little while, for me, it wasn't too bad, a week or two, I calmed down and I shrugged and I came into acceptance. It wasn't meant to be. I let go. And I said to the universe, this was something better. Yes, it wasn't fair. Yes, I could have put in an appeal. I could prove I was better qualified, all the rest of it. But what's the point? They didn't want me. They wanted this other person. I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. And I believe that something better will come. Yeah? I moved into acceptance. Very soon after, within a month, another job that was advertised that was even better pay and closer to home in a nicer building with nicer people. I got that job. In the benefit of hindsight, which I didn't have at the time, the benefit of hindsight said, I'm so glad I didn't get that first job. I'm so glad they gave it to somebody else because the job I ended up with was so much better. That was a valuable lesson to me. I think I was about 29 at the time. A valuable lesson that next time something doesn't go your way or you don't get something you believe you should get and that it wasn't fair and it wasn't right, just trust that there's something better, that this was meant to be. It was done. It was over. It was finished. But we find it difficult to let go. In the case of something like a marriage or a long-term relationship, when it finally ends, with the benefit of hindsight, if you're truly honest with yourself, you can look back at that marriage, usually for at least 2 years, and say, we'd been struggling for quite a while. We'd lost the connection. It just wasn't there anymore. And we were treading water. And I wasn't making them happy and they weren't making me happy. It probably died sometime before. It was well past its sell-by date, but we carried on just going through the motions until finally one of us broke and ended it. Now, this going through the motions is what so many people do. So many of us live our lives where we're going through the motions in a relationship, in a job, in so many aspects of our life. We're just going through the motions. There's no joy, there's no passion, there's no interest, there's no growth. We're stale, we're bored, we're frustrated. And our soul and our higher self, they start to give us little rumblings to say, it's time to move on. We're bored, we're stagnant, we're stale, it's time to go. Now, sometimes it will come like a tower moment where you just called in your whole team and your boss says, we're shutting the company down, really sorry, everybody's being made redundant, bye-bye. That's a shock, and you say, I didn't invite that. I promise you there is a part of you that said, I'm not really fulfilled in this job, I'm wanting more, I'm reaching for more. Perhaps there was a part of you that your health was suffering. You really needed a break. And not just a week's holiday, but maybe 3 or 6 months to regain and retain yourself, to find yourself again, to find your health again. And then when you have, a new job will come along. Maybe that job ending when it did had saved you from some serious health issues. It is my belief, and many people in the spiritual community, that dis-ease comes from stress and strain and imbalance. When our life is out of balance and we feel stressed and strained continually, that is a toxic energy that eventually can manifest itself into something as serious as cancer. So maybe by you losing that job and your body was really beginning to break down, and if you'd stayed there, maybe in another year, you might have had cancer. But by leaving the job and having a break, and maybe many of you say to me, I've been out of work 6 months, 9 months, 2 years, can't get a job. It's happening for a reason. Your body needs the break, needs the rest. Perhaps that job that you were doing, and you keep looking for jobs in the same field with different companies, perhaps that job was killing you. Perhaps there's a better job in a completely different field, but you're not looking there. And that's why it hasn't come yet, because you're looking in the wrong place. So all of this conversation is about, how do I let go? It is in the wanting to. So how do I want to when every part of me doesn't want to? It is to look at, what harm is it doing me to continue fighting, to continue railing against, to continue resisting? How much am I holding anger and hostility, resentment, and all these toxic energies because I can't accept what is? Because when I make a decision, I am accepting it. I move into wanting to. I move into I am. This is what it is, and I'm moving on. Now, I believe I've said everything that I wanted to say on this. I'm now asking my team to take over. My team is called Eli, and that stands for Empowering Loving Information. My spiritual team are made up of a variety of different level and different dimensional beings. So I'm saying to my team now, I've said everything I wanted to say. Is there anything you want to add about letting go? All right, and for those of you who haven't seen me channel before, for those of you watching this rather than listening, I am a conscious channeler. My eyes stay open, but I tend to look into the distance rather than at the screen, at the camera. When I'm talking to you, I look at the camera, so I'm connecting with you. When my team are talking through me, I tend to look up or look down or look away. I'm looking into the distance, not at you, because that's the way I channel. All right? Okay, Eli, what do you want to say about letting go? You are at a time in your evolution, which is the most important and powerful time in the dawn of mankind. Ever, we would say ever, the first time, including Lemuria, Atlantis, so many different times in your reality. This is the greatest time of change. And with change comes a raising of the vibration into what you have called 5D, 5-dimension, higher consciousness, higher awareness. And you see what this awareness does. It rises within you the awareness of self and the awareness of emotions, your emotions. For the first time, you are really becoming very, very aware, much more aware than you were perhaps 2 years ago, 5 years ago. You're far more aware now of what you feel and what you think and your energy. You are more determined in your power than you were before, with your your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, but most importantly, we would say that this raising of awareness within you, which is the higher vibration of being able to see into yourself. Many of you, of course, want to see into the future and want to see into energy, but seeing into yourself is the most important and where it all begins. So you see into yourself and you see that you are dissatisfied or unhappy or bored or stagnant, as Julie said. Many of these things, many of you are living right now. And this rise within you of self-awareness also rises up self-love, self-care, self-mastery, self-respect, and self-deservability. And you say, I deserve more. I desire more. This will not do. And so you may not be aware of this, and many of you are not on a conscious level, but you are aware in a what we would call higher conscious level, what you call subconscious level, but energetically within your being there is a resonance of desiring change. And the more the light comes in of a higher vibration, the more that you are rising up to meet it. And as you rise up to meet it, you want more. And you say to yourself, I desire more, I deserve more. This is not good enough. And so you begin to resonate with a different frequency. And so the frequency that you are currently on, you begin to push against, rail against, outgrow. The frequency that you are currently in may be so. Your energy expands out, pushes out, and everything begins to feel more and more uncomfortable for you. As it becomes more uncomfortable, the desire to break free of what you would call the shackles that bind you begin to become louder, become more persistent, until you say, I desire change. And so change comes along. And when it comes along, then you are uncomfortable in that transitionary space, the between where you were and where you are going. And then your instinct is to want to run back to where you were, because you knew that space, even if it was uncomfortable, it was familiar. To move into the new space is unfamiliar and a little fearful for you, and so you resist. We would say, you see, that when change comes along, when you have decided you want the change, it is much easier for you to accept it. But when somebody else, as you see it, forces the change upon you, then you find it more difficult to accept. But you see, your being on so many levels has called for that change. It may not have called for it in the way that it has come about, but it has called for change, and so the change comes. And as long as you see that this change has been imposed upon you, you will want to push against it. But if you can see and accept that this change is for your highest good, your best self, your future self, then it is easier for you to accept. And we wanted to talk with you about this particular subject today because we are sending so much more light down to your planet now. The awareness is growing so much. The change that you will all be experiencing over the coming years will be rapid and constant, change after change after change. And if you are stuck in this resistance to change, you will find the coming years very challenging. And you see, they do not need to be challenging. You see, they are wondrous changes. They are changes that are exciting indeed. They are changes for your betterment. They are changes for your planet's betterment. They are changes so wondrous. Please trust us when we tell you these changes are happening, will happen. There is nothing that you can do to stop it, because the rise in consciousness has reached the tipping point several months ago, and there is no turning back. And so What we would encourage you to do is every time you feel the resistance of saying, I refuse to accept this change, to know that you are putting yourself in a very uncomfortable position, a painful position that can last as long as you allow it to. That the sooner that you can acknowledge that this is painful and difficult for you, and own it, and then release it and move into acceptance of what is, the happier, healthier, and more vibrant your energy and being will be. We know it is hard. There are many books on change that will help you. There are many healers that will help you. But the biggest healer you see for all of you is yourself. When you choose, simply choose, I decide I am accepting this situation, even though it is sad, even though it is upsetting. Acknowledge, do not deny it is sad for you, for we know it is. Do not deny it is upsetting for you, for we know it is. But the sooner you can say, oh, well, it is what it is. You see, Buddha came a long time ago to show you this acceptance. Jesus came to show you forgiveness and love. Use these tools. There have been many prophets being sent to show you how to manage life, how to manage wellness. Tap into these. Acceptance of what is. Acceptance does not mean it is okay. It does not mean you are saying, I am okay with this. It is all right not to be okay with it. It is all right to not be okay with it. So feel that and allow it, but you can not be okay with it whilst at the same time accepting what is. I'm not okay with it, but I can't change it, and so I move forward, I move on. And that prevents this huge build-up of resentment and pain and sorrow within you. It prevents a stagnancy of holding stuck in a situation that you cannot change. You are helpless to change. But many of you say, I am not helpless, I can make this change. You see, there are many things beyond your control. You are not helpless, but there are things that you cannot control. And neither, we would suggest, should you try, for it is a waste of your energy. You see, resistance is such a powerful energy, and so this is why you become drained and despondent and depressed. Indeed, depression is a result of non-acceptance, of resistance. Because the non-resistance, beg pardon, slow down, all right. The resistance, the fighting, the arguing, the denying, they are exhausting, draining energies. A battle is an energy that is draining. So, instead, we suggest you use that energy that you have to, instead of fighting against what you perceive has gone wrong with your past, to use the energy to create a wondrous future instead. You will find the energy, instead of depleting, getting lower and lower every day, becomes greater and greater every day, for the energy of creating is self-perpetuating. And so when you take all that wondrous energy that you have and you say, I am using my energy to find new love, to find a new job, to start my own business, to move house, to have an opportunity to create a completely new life. Whatever you want to do with it, the energy will move you forward in a perpetual motion that stimulates We say this twice, for it is a beautiful word, a wondrous word, stimulate. You see, the energy of resistance is everything not stimulate. It drains, it depletes, it slows down, it moves into stagnancy, because you see the energy changed because it was stagnant. And when you try to hold on to that energy, you stay in stagnancy. When you let go, you move into allowing wondrous creative energy to come forward to you. Do you see, dear ones? Do you see? You are co-creations with the universe, and it is not just your planet that is rising at this time. It is all of creation. It is all of the multiverses. And Gaia, planet Earth, and you Gaians will not be left behind. It is raising. And you see, if something is falling away in your life because the energies are raising, it means that those energies were holding you back and they are falling away like the shackles that bind you. You are free, you see, to create a new reality that suits the new higher vibrational, new aware, new vibrational you. So embrace the changes, embrace the allowing of what is. Feel the feelings, let them go, and move into allowing. We love you indeed. And that transmission has ended from my team. They probably explained it a lot better than I did. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it helps you. All right? Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this podcast and found it useful, please subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and more, where you can leave up to a 5-star review. If you want to support my work or want to know more, please go to my website, juliepooleonline.com, where you will find details of my new book, From Hoping to Having, available on Amazon worldwide, and more about my work, products and services. The link is in the show notes. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode.